Hello, Taurus. Welcome to your May Business and Finance Tarot reading. I will pull out 3 columns, a challenge column, a solution column, and a potential outcome column. These are not predictions. You are in control of your life and your destiny, depending on the choices and the decisions that you make today. So let's see what the cards have to say about a current challenge that you might be facing. So we have the Temperance. You may feel a lack of balance at the moment, a lack of flow. Something's just not flowing in the way that you would like it to. This could be in relation to work. I'm getting something about work-life balance. So you may have believed that switching something up was going to help your work-life balance, but it hasn't quite turned out the way that you hope. You may potentially be struggling to make a decision or take action on a situation, and there's a little bit of heartbreak, a little bit of pain involved in a situation at the moment. I feel like there's more than one thing going on right now. So I'm feeling like a lack of balance in a work situation or finance, not being able to juggle, not being able to get a flow in the way that your life is running. Maybe you need to make a decision in order to try and help that situation, but you feel blocked about making that decision at the moment. And that could be because you're experiencing some pain. So the pain is impacting you in a way where it's actually blocking your intellectual or objectivity. It's blocking you from making an objective decision about what's good or bad, what's right or wrong, or what's best for you. And I think you're aware of this. So you know that the emotion that you feel at the moment is more dominant than your capacity to remain neutral. And that's why you want to make the decision, but you're also aware that you're not in the right place to make one. And you're worried that if you do make a decision, it might not be the right one because you know that you're making it from this emotion. And because of that, that's impacting on your flow at the moment. So let's see what solutions are available to you. We have new ideas, curiosity with the Page of Swords, leadership, vision, mastery, and making a change. So the Page of Swords is all about, that's quite a fresh energy, that's quite a nice energy. It's all about new ideas, a fresh approach, curiosity. So become curious, be more curious about a potential solution. Because I feel at the moment you're stuck in this heartache energy. You're stuck in this energy of the pain of the situation that previously happened that you haven't been able to shift out of. And instead of trying to convince yourself to stop feeling it, which isn't working, what the Page of Swords does is it opens up a kind of what if scenario. So instead of trying to force yourself to not feel something, start getting curious about what other options could be. It's a little bit of a psychological trick on yourself, because our brain has a way of blocking off a solution if we think that it's too far away from where we are. But if we say, well, what if? Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Do I believe it's going to happen? No. But is there a 1% chance that it could? Yes. It's like winning the lottery. Do we really realistically think that we're going to win the lottery this week? No. But is it possible? Yes. So we need to shift into the is it possible thinking. That's going to shift you out of this heaviness, because at the moment you're in it's not possible, I can't get out of it, it's not going to work kind of thinking. So curiosity, thinking about what's possible. I feel like when you go through this journey, you're going to develop some skills that are then going to lend themselves towards you becoming a leader. Now, will it be a leader in relation to what you learn in the situation, or it could be that, or it could be a leader in your field of speciality. So let's say you're an engineer. You could step up a gear when it comes to your engineering career. You know, do you work in finance? Maybe you might be promoted in finance, or you might find yourself in a, you know, being headhunted for a more higher paying role. But I do see there's something about leadership here in terms of your solution. It could be leading yourself, you know, leading yourself out of the current heaviness, the current emotional state that you're in, because once you start to lead yourself, then you're positioned to lead other people. So there's definitely a component of leadership here, whether that's leading yourself, could be potentially leading others as well. But in some way or another, that is linked to the solution here of how you're going to get out of this sort of painful energy. We've got the Tower card. The Tower card is about unknown circumstances that could take place. Obviously, this is in your solution row. So this is, your solution row is really dictated by you. Maybe you need to make a big change. There's something about your life right now. Maybe it could be your job. Maybe it could be the way that you spend money. Maybe it could be some colleagues. It could be the company you work for. But there's a big change that needs to happen in order for you to move forwards. It's not a little change, it's a big change. That's what the Tower card is. It's like a life, it's a life shift, essentially. Now, if you take those steps that I've just mentioned, let's see what potential outcomes there could be for you. We have the Five of Swords. Now, it looks like there might be some resistance to you making this change. So that now makes sense with the leadership card, because I feel like there's going to be potentially some resistance, whether it's from yourself or maybe from colleagues or somebody that might try to, it doesn't even have to be intentional. It doesn't have to be malicious. It might not be that somebody's actually waking up in the morning and actively working against you, but people have different priorities, right? What's right for one person might not be right for another. When you put 10 people into a room and ask everybody the same question, you might get 10 different answers. So I do feel like there might be some resistance in terms of you making the change. But what I'm not getting is that there's any intentional malice there. It could just be the fact that, let's say, for example, and it doesn't have to be the situation, but let's say you want to leave a job role, but your manager really wants you to stay because they think that you're a really amazing employee. Okay, so good intention by your manager. However, it would actually then affect your decision because it would cause you an internal conflict. So that's what I see. I see a conflict in terms of you moving forwards. As I say, it doesn't necessarily mean people getting swords out and fighting with each other, right? It could be a conflict within yourself. Now, let's see what else we have. Wow, that's great. This is a really amazing card for the final column, because Ace of Cups is all about new beginnings. And it's about a new emotional beginning, which is actually the perfect card to follow on from this emotional heaviness that you're feeling right now. So this to me is telling me you are going to get through this. This is saying you will, if you follow these steps, you will come out the other side and you will have a new emotional beginning where you feel light, you feel happy again, you feel like you can start afresh, which is fantastic. Let's pull one more card out. And then we have the Six of Cups. it may lead you back to somebody that you knew in your past, or it could lead you back to maybe a town you used to live in, or it could, your new beginning is almost, it's kind of almost like you're going back into childhood or into a fond memory that you had before. So for example, how this could play out is maybe your new beginning is that you go and work for a company that you worked for 10 years ago. There's an element of going forward but going backwards sort of thing here. Obviously that can play out in so many different ways. But with that energy of going into a place where you once felt happy, you will feel that same happiness that you felt before. And that will open up that new start for you. So these are my own cards. I don't sell them. They are linked to quantum physics. So for every card, there's a quantum physics component formula on the back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them all over, and we will have a little bit of a debrief around how can we energetically move through this situation, but looking at the situation in a slightly different way. The two cards I'm going to focus on, because there's way too much here for me to talk through all of them, but since a really strong theme in your reading was this emotional journey, pulling yourself out of this heaviness and into this new beginning, this new emotional beginning. So what I'm going to discuss here is wave function collapse and field emergence. So in quantum physics, essentially, the core of who you are, and everyone really, and everything, is at the center of it. There's like what's called a Taurus field. So every reality that emerges, every physical object that emerges from the quantum field that we all bathe in all the time, but most of us are just unaware of it. But around us, we're bathing in this quantum field, right? There's energy all around us. And the way that we create situations and we exist comes from what's called like a Taurus field. So on the quantum scale, again, way too small for us to ever actually observe, unless it's through proper microscopes and you're in a science lab and you're doing it properly, but it's way beyond our visual perception. But there's what's called Taurus fields and oscillators that operate at a Planck scale. The Planck scale was discovered by Max Planck when he was trying to create a new light bulb, and he came across what's called the ultraviolet catastrophe. So he was trying to make a light bulb and discovered a new, smaller sort of oscillation in the quantum field. Now, the oscillation at the Planck scale is basically like, think of, do you know the hourglass? Do you know an hourglass? You turn it upside down and it's kind of like that shape where it goes out, then in, then out again. Well, the Planck scale oscillation is like that. It's the hourglass. And every time a new reality emerges, it emerges through this oscillation of this hourglass emerging into a physical reality. And then basically, what's the opposite of emerging? Sort of unemerging. I'll find a better word for that for my next reading, hopefully. But it basically moves into the quantum field, so it's not visible. And essentially, why is this all sort of relevant to this reading? Because every time this hourglass re-emerges, with it comes something called sacred geometry. So it's a geometric shape. So the quantum field is composed of numbers and geometric shapes. Now, when your geometry of your personal energy field and your personal aura is asymmetric, or it's not symmetric, that's when you feel emotional heaviness and burden. Because the shape that your emotional blueprint, your emotional body is pushing out into the quantum field, into your energy field, into your body. So all these tiny oscillations at the Planck scale, well, they accumulate throughout your body because it's happening in every single cell in your body. So collectively, that oscillation is going to form an overall level of well-being. So with each oscillation, if the geometry that's being pushed out is not symmetric, that lends itself to you feeling unwell in terms of your emotional stability. What we can do to shift that actually is, when you understand this concept, you can actually use geometry to shift your geometric impulses that are coming from within your own energy field, within your own body, within your cells, within the atoms that make up your cells, because your cells are made from atoms, and atoms are made from 99.999% empty space, which is essentially consciousness and intention. So when you set your consciousness and intention to, you could use geometric shapes like just even a simple square or a simple circle, just something solid, a solid geometric shape, and focus on that. What that does is it stabilizes your geometric outputs, and that will also help you to stabilize yourself emotionally. So with that being said, thank you very much, and I will see you next time.